We're almost finished. We're almost finished with learning the simple meaning with a few commentaries. This week's Torah portion, which is Toldot, which tells the story of Yitzchak and his two twin sons, Yaakov and Esav. And we talked about how Yaakov stole the birthright from Esav, even though it really justly belonged to him. And now Esav is all angry. So now Yitzchak strangely tells Esav, the evil son, that he wants to bless him. And it now opens up a whole new saga, right? The curtains go up, and here it is. Vayiki Zaken Yitzchak, and it was when Yitzchak became old. We'll see that he was 123 years old when this happened, and Yitzchak lived to 180 years old. In any case, now he was old, and his eyes were weak from seeing. They couldn't see. And he called his Esav, his son, his older son, and he said, "My son," and he said, "Here I am." He said, "Here I am." And he said, "I'm old. I don't know when I'm going to die. I want you to take your sword and your sword and your bow and arrow, and go into the field and hunt me some food. Hunt me some food, and make it tasty like I love, and bring it to me, and then I will bless you before I die." Okay, there's more. Of course, there's going to more. And Rivka hears this whole thing, and she overheard it. And Yitzchak goes Esav goes into the field to hunt. He's an expert hunter. He's going to get it in no time and catch the food. And Rivka said to Yaakov, her son, "Listen, I just heard what's going down. Your father spoke to Esav, your brother, and he said to go and bring him food, and that he'll give him a blessing before he dies. So now, my son, listen to me when I'm telling you what to do. Go to the sheep and bring me 2 goats, and I'll make really tasty food for your father, like he loves, and you bring it to your father, and he'll eat, and then he'll bless you before he dies." Okay, so that's the story. Yaakov now is going to say, "I'm afraid. I don't want." He's going to see it immediately, and she says, "Don't worry about it." Okay, we'll talk about that. Let's just do these first few sentences. We'll go over it with a commentary. Ready? And it was when we're going back to the beginning. And it was when Yitzchak was old. The techena einav, and his eyes became dull from seeing. He couldn't see. Vayikra Esav, and he called Esav, his older son, and he said to him, "My son," and he said, "Here am I." Let's look at Rashi over here. What does Rashi have to say? It says that his eyes became weak. Why? Because of the smoke of Elu, with the smoke of the idolatry of the wives of Esav. It says Esav's wives were all idolatrous, and they made all these weird sacrifices, and they also went in incense, and that made him. Yitzchak couldn't take it. Yitzchak was too pure, so he couldn't take it, and that's why it says his wife, though, Rivka, she could take it because she grew up in a house of idolaters. She knew what that was. And Yitzchak, he didn't know what this idolatry business was. His father was holy, his mother was holy. Sora and Avram. That's one explanation. Another explanation, this is really a weird explanation. How did Yitzchak become blind? It says, when Yitzchak was brought to be killed on the altar, remember this was 90 years earlier, and when he was young, and Abraham brought him up on the altar, so his father wanted to kill him. At that time, the heavens opened up, the angels saw, and they were crying, and their tears came down, and they fell into his eyes. Therefore, his eyes became weak. That's another reason why he became blind was, forget about these bad reasons or whatever it was, because of the idolatry or because of the angels were crying. Another reason is because he just became blind in order that, because he really wanted to give Esav the blessing. So, and it wasn't a good thing. So he became blind so that Yaakov would be able to fool him and take the blessings. That's 3 reasons. It says that Vayehi. Now the word Vayehi, usually it means when something's going to be bad. Vayehi b'yamei Achashverosh. When things are bad, the word Vayehi, it means, and it was, and it happened. But usually the Vayehi means it. So Vayehi means something that's not good. What was not good? Because the situation brought to the necessity of Yaakov that he had to fool his father in order to get these blessings. So that's why it wasn't a good thing. That he had to use trickery. And he had to fool his father. And from this came many things to also the Jewish people. There was also going to be bad things that would result from this for the Jews, that they had to pay for this trickery that he used. Here we are. Okay, so Yitzchak said to Esav, I'm old, I don't know the day that I'm going to die. Says Rashi, why was he even thinking about dying? What type of a thing is that? So as Rebbe Yeshua ben Karcha says, when a person reaches near to the day that his parents, either one of his parents died, so he should worry 5 years before that date and 5 years after that date. Yitzchak was right now at this time of this whole story, he was 126 years old. And he explains how you figure that out. Anyway, he's now 126 years old. And he said, listen, maybe I'm going to die near the time when my mother died. My mother died 127 years old. She's 123 years old. That's how did I say that? I don't remember. 123 years old. And his mother died at the age of 127. So he said, I'm about 5 years close to my mother. So maybe, I don't know when I'm going to die. Maybe near my mother, when my mother passed, maybe when my father. And it ended up he did. He passed away 5 years after the date, the age of his father. His father lived, Abraham lived to 175 and he lived to 180. He said, I don't know when I'm going to die because, and also it's another thing, what does he care about dying? So says the Sofrono that blessings work better if they're given right before a person dies. We see this with Yaakov, that right in the end of the book of Parshas Vayechi, in the end of the book of Genesis, that Yaakov blessed all of his sons, and with Moshe, Zosa Bracha, that's in the end of the book of Deuteronomy, that Moses blessed everybody, because right near a person's death, that's when the soul is more removed from the physicality. So the blessings are more like accurate. Okay, so says Yaakov to his son, Yitzchak, okay, take up your vessels, your whatever is your spear or something like that, and your spear, your sword, and your bow and arrow, and go into the field and catch me something. He says, what do you mean catch me something? Totally from the Hefker. Says, I want you to bring me ownerless. Don't go into somebody else's property, and don't steal. Don't steal. Because he already had a sense that Esav could be a big thief. Could be. There's different opinions about exactly what Yitzchak knew. According to Chassidut, like we learned today, he knew everything. He knew how bad he was, but he knew that there was also a several sparks of good in Esav, and he thought he could redeem them by giving him this blessing. The Bal HaTurim, oh, sorry. What is this? Yeah, the Kli Ykar says, where did he get this idea from to go and send his son Esav into the field to hunt? Why didn't you say, hey, we got some goats? Why didn't you do like what Rivka said? Hey, we got some goats, bring me some goats and I want to eat, I'm hungry, and then I'll give you a big blessing. Why did he send them into the field? So he said that there's a Gemara somewhere that says that a person should not eat food that's already like in his backyard or something like that. You should try to not be always used to eating meat. So therefore, when he was catching it, so he didn't know if he would catch it or not. It was like sort of not prepared for him. So that's a better way, because a person shouldn't get too mundane. He says that's the reason that he gives other reasons as well. All right, Dalet. So it says, Yitzchak says, make me tasty food like I love and bring it to me and I will eat it. Now in the Tanya, in the 27th chapter of the Tanya, he explains that this idea of matamim, tasty food, means there's two types of tasty food. There's food which is tasty naturally, and then there's food which is not tasty naturally. It's bitter, and you have to put all sorts of spices on it and cook it in a special way and put a lot of effort into it. But then it ends up being more tasty than the natural tasty food. So that sort of hints at what he was trying to say to Esav, bring me matamim. I know that you're not a righteous person, but I want to fix you up so you will be righteous. And that is sort of implied, is bring me this tasty food like I love. Now, Yitzchak's whole thing, like we said before, was digging wells. He loved to take a barren, a deserted wasteland situation and transform it into an inhabitable, blessed and fruitful thing. So that's what sort of was saying to Yitzchak. That was his nature. That's what I love. And my nature is to take deserts and turn them into, places that are an oasis. And that's what I want to do to you also. So he said, bring to me and I will bless you before I die. What's the Sophrona? He says, why? Because he said, the Sophrona has a little bit different explanation than what I just gave. And he said that he wanted Esav to work hard and get this food and to prepare it so that he would invest a lot of his energy into honoring his father, and that would be the vessel for the blessing that he wanted to give to him. That would fix him up because he was making all these efforts and things for his father in order to receive a blessing. Now, interestingly enough, we see that Esav really believed in these blessings. He really wanted the blessing. And when we see that he didn't get it, he got very angry. So he understood the power of blessing of Yitzchak, but he was so selfish that he wanted the blessing all for himself, just to increase his power, so he could be able to get more. So he wanted the blessing. He believed in the blessing, but he wanted to utilize it for a bad purpose. Okay, Rivka heard what's happening, and she called her son. I'm sorry. She heard what Yitzchak said to Esav, and Esav left. He went into the field in order to hunt. It says, what did you mean she heard? It tells you that Rivka was a prophetess. She had the power of prophecy. How could she hear what her husband was saying, even though she wasn't there at all? But she always could hear whatever Yitzchak said, even though that she wasn't nearby. That's why she said that he heard. It doesn't say that Rivka, it says that he heard. It says Rivka heard. It doesn't say that it was heard to Rivka. Usually, right? In other words, it was made heard. She heard the voices. Rivka heard these voices. Okay, she was a prophet. Rivka calls her younger son Yaakov, and she says, "Listen, I just heard your father speaking to Esav, and he was saying that he wants to give him a big blessing. Bring me some food, and I will make tasty food, and and your father will bless you before he dies." And she doesn't say that. It says, and one second. I'm sorry. Let's go back a little bit. I'm trying to go too fast, and because of that, okay. Rivka says to Yaakov, I just heard your father speak to Esav, and he said to Esav, bring me food and make me tasty food, and I'll eat it, and I'll bless you in front of God before I die. What does it mean in front of God? With the permission of God, that God will agree to what I say. So according to what Rashi is saying, is that Yaakov was putting a check, and there was going to be a safety valve on this blessing. He was saying, I'm going to give you a blessing, Esav, but I want to be sure that God will agree. But first of all, you make all your preparations, and then we'll see what happens. If God agrees to this blessing, or not? Okay, so Rivka is still talking. She's saying, this is what I heard your father say. Now Rivka says to Yaakov, now listen, my son, listen to my voice. Listen to what I'm saying. And I'm going to command you. This is what I'm going to command you. What I'm going to command you. Ready? She says, go to our sheep, our flocks, and take 2 goats, good goats, and I will make from them good food for your father like he lives. Why 2 goats? Says Rashi, first of all, take 2 goats that are mine. Don't take from thievery. Don't steal. But that's what Rivka wrote in his marriage document, that Yitzchak wrote in his marriage document that Rivka had to provide, Yitzchak wrote in his marriage document that he would provide for Rivka every day 2 sheep, 2 goats. That was part of the stipulation in the wedding contract, that he promised he would give her 2 goats every day for eating, for whatever. It says two goats. Well, you needed 2 goats. What was that? That's what Yitzchak ate every day, 2 days. But it was Passover. One of them was for the Pesach offering, and the other one was to make this good food, because the Pesach offering could come from a sheep or a goat. That's what Rabbi Eliezer said. Pirkei the Rabbi Eliezer. This is what I love. He said, your father loves this taste. The taste of a goat is like the taste of deer. I don't know. I've never eaten venison before, but if you do, I don't know if I've ever eaten goat meat either. But in any case, Rashi says they taste the same. It must be that they taste, or they can be made to taste the same. So Rivka says, bring me a goat, I'll cook it up, and you bring it to your father, and he'll eat in order that he will bless you, and not Esav. He'll bless you before he dies. And Yaakov said to Rivka, his mother, listen, Esav, my brother, he's a hairy person, and I don't have any hair. My father's going to get me. He's going to catch it. Ulai yimusheni avi. Maybe my father will touch me. He'll bring to kiss me. He'll draw me close. He'll hug me, and I'll be like a joker in his eyes. This is metatea, means that I am like a con man. He says I'm fooling myself, and I'm fooling him. And this will bring me a curse and not a blessing. My father, he's awesome. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it'll come out a curse and not a blessing. He'll say, what are you doing? I don't want to give you a blessing. I want to give to your brother. What are you trying to do over here? His mother said, listen, I'll take the curse myself, but listen to what I say. Go and get the goat. There's no time to waste. Let's not argue. What do you mean I'll take the curse? How can that be? So the Das Zakenim, he explains that Yitzchak, when he sees that you fooled him, he's not going to blame you. He knows you're a simple person. He's going to blame me. Shakach, that's the way people do. When a child does something bad, they say, woe to the parents that gave birth to such an evil child. Right? Accursed is the mother who this child came from her womb. So I'll get the curse, not you. Okay, Yaakov did it. He went and he brought a goat to his mother. She made good food like her father loved. Rivka, now what he said, the doubts that he put into her mind, Yaakov, that maybe my father will feel me. It says, so Rivka, she took from the skins. We're going to say, no, I'm sorry, that's afterwards. Rivka took the garments of Esav, what is it called? The precious garments. Now, chamudot means that they're very desirable garments that she had in her house. What type of garments did he have? And she put these garments on Yaakov, her son. What were these garments? So Rashi says that these garments were clean and very nice, like because Esav was always in the field, so he didn't put on nice garments as Esav would probably do. He'd come back home and he'd wash himself. He says, no, this was the garments that were desired by Nimrod. Nimrod was this king that threw Abraham into the fiery furnace. Nimrod was like a huge, terrible ruler, like a Genghis Khan sort of a guy, and he was totally against God. And Nimrod, he ruled over the world for a while, and Esav got these garments. And Esav gave it to his mother, Rivka. So Rashi says, once again, Esav had a lot of wives, but nevertheless, he didn't trust any of them. He gave these garments to his mother because he knew what his wives were up to, and he suspected all of them, didn't trust any one of them. These magic garments. The Das HaKanim says that these garments were, Esav would put them on when he went to hunt, and all the animals would come to him because it resembled all the animals, so they would come to him and he would hunt them easily. But according to this, that's what it says in a midrash. But it's not understood why she put them. First of all, why didn't he put them on to go and get this food for his father? Right? In fact, you'll see that it took him a long time. And also, what in the world did she put this on Yaakov for? So it says that she wanted to make Yaakov to be as similar as Esav as possible. And then, so she made the meat of these goats to be very tasty, and the skin of the goats she put on his arms and on around the back of his neck. And she gave the food. What she do that for, we'll see. And she gave the food and bread that she made, and she put it to Yaakov. And he went to his father. Yaakov went to his father, and he said, "Father," he said, "here am I. Who are you, my son?" And Yaakov said to his father, "I am Esav. I'm Esav." Outright lie. Your first son. So Rashi says it wasn't a lie. He said, "Anochi." He said, "It is me." Yaakov said, "It is me." And Esav, he's the firstborn. He sort of hesitated there. He said, "I am the one who was bringing the food." And Esav, he's the firstborn. And look what I made. He said, "Many things I made, just like you told me to do." So Yitzchak figured, wow, he did exactly what I said. This is probably Esav. Now the question, of course, is obvious. Why didn't Esav recognize his son's voice? Right? I mean, Esav, why didn't Yitzchak recognize that this was Yaakov's voice? I mean, what is he talking about? The arms and the things. So he says, very simple. Says the answer is that people can change their voice. And Esav knew that his father, Yitzchak, loved the way that Yaakov speaks. So maybe he was like speaking calmly and quietly and etc. Right? But his arms, it's difficult to change. The hair on the arms and everything. Yitzchak said to his son, "What, you hurried up so much to bring me?" And he said that God helped me. He made it come in front of me. God made this thing come in front of me. And all of a sudden he started saying the word God. Right? Saying God. Yitzchak said to Yaakov, "Let me just feel you, my son. Are you really Esav or not?" So he said, "Come." Yitzchak said in his heart, "Esav doesn't say God's name. Something's wrong over here." And that's what he said. Hikra Elokim. He said that God caused me to find this the food quickly. So Yaakov went to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak felt him, and he said, "I don't know what's going on over here." So the voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. So he explains what's going on. The Kli Ykar, he says like this. Yitzchak now was confused. He knew that there was two things going on here. First of all, the son that came in said, "I am Esav." So we know his son is not going to come in and lie, for what? With no reason. What's he going to come and lie? And not only that, he feels that the hands are the hands of Esav. So it's a good chance that it's Esav, and there's no reason to believe that it's not Esav. I mean, when he spoke to Esav alone, nobody heard him tell Esav what to do. So obviously, what about the voice? How about the voice? So he says, "Ze ulai ze mitnaker b'kolo." maybe he's just pretending and he's making his voice like Yaakov for some reason. Right? Maybe he's working with making his voice like Yaakov. So it could be that Esav is making his voice like Yaakov, but it's not logical that this person in front of me is Yaakov. I mean, how did he even know to come in and bring me these all exactly what I told him? And not only that, why would Yaakov disguise his arms like Esav? Why would he do a thing like that? Right? I mean, if he's not disguising his voice, so then he shouldn't disguise his arms either. He should come and say, listen, I'm Yaakov, I want the blessing. So he didn't know what to do. He said, maybe the truth is that it's really Esav. So that's what he says, that he doesn't know who's going to receive the blessing. If, according to the voice, this is a person that's ready for the blessing. According to the hands, they're like Esav. But maybe it's really Yaakov, and he's trying for some reason to pretend that he's Esav. Why would he want to do that? So therefore, he realizes, he thinks at least, that it's Esav like he thought, and he just carries on. It says, V'lo ikiro, he didn't recognize him because his hands were like the hands of Esav, and they were hairy, and he blessed him. And we're going to see what type of a blessing he gives. He said, are you sure you're my son Esav? And he said, Ani, I am. What does it mean, Ani? He said, I am. He doesn't say, I am Esav. He just said, it's me. He said, come and eat from this food, and I'll bless you. And he ate, and he brought wine, and he got drunk. And he said, come and give me a kiss. And Yaakov came, and he smelled, and Yitzchak smelled the garments of Yitzchak. Yitzchak smelled the garments of Yaakov, his son, and he blessed him. And we're going to see what the blessing is, but we're going to have to wait till tomorrow. And he said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that God blessed. This is the title of the mimer that we're learning. And we're going to find out what this is tomorrow, but let's just say this quickly. He smelled the garments of Esav, these terrible smelly garments that he put on, the skins of goat skins that he put around his neck and his arms, and he smelled it. He says, wow, this is like the smell of the field of God and like the smell of heaven. Says, what's going on? Says Rashi, there's no worse smell than the smell of goat skins. Ella, but it teaches you that what happened, he went in and the smell of heaven was with him. It says this is the field that God blessed, that God gave a good smell. It says this is the Kabbalistic level of the Sadeh Tepuchim. It says the field of apples. That's what the rabbi said. This is a Kabbalistic level. We're going to talk about this more. We're going to see that when Esav comes in, Yitzchak gives the blessing to his son Yaakov, thinking that it is Esav. When Esav finally does come in, it says that the smell of hell came in with him. And this we're going to talk about tomorrow. We'll also try to do the maftir tomorrow, the haftorah, not the maftir, the haftorah. God bless you. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much for listening.